Can somebody read for us?
Writing clearly and elegantly, better writing to appropriate vocabulary, grammar, and syntax, English.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So there are ways to write clearly and elegantly. Okay, writing clearly and elegantly can make you more uh, can build rapport with your readers. When you write clearly and elegantly, your readers would like to read you. You know, there's a really famous and very smart academic named Joshua Fishman. There's a he's a really smart academic. Next to Noam Chomsky, I think he's one of the most quoted. But you see, Joshua Fishman writes opaquely. Okay? His writing is opaque. Ang hirap basahin ng mga sinulat ni Joshua Fishman. What happened is there are other writers who explain what Joshua Fishman have written. They are Ferguson and what's the other name? That's the guy. I don't remember, but Fasold. Ferguson and Fasold are writers who are read by readers when they want to learn about the ideas of Joshua Fishman. Joshua Fishman is popular in the realm of language, linguistics, and social linguistics. He has so many bright ideas. Okay, but his writing was opaque. So instead of reading Joshua Fishman, people read Fasold and Ferguson because they're the ones who explain Fishman's ideas in clearly and elegantly. Okay, so it's very important for us to write clearly and elegantly, and we'll discuss a bit of that. Now, in writing clearly and elegantly, we have subtopics: being concise, being precise, and being formal. Okay, our discussion on being formal would would move us to the next discussion. Okay, so first is being concise. When we say being concise, it means expressing an idea with as few words as possible. Why do we need to be concise? Well, because readers of academic literature do not read for pleasure but for knowledge. They do not have time for wordy or flowery texts. Okay? When people read for pleasure, it's okay with them if you use lots and lots of words. Okay, but when you write academic literature, there's so many things to read. You need to be concise. You need to express
Sabi niya.
ideas with as few words
Diretso,
as possible.
baliktaran, si Rodriguez.
Okay? Now, here are several ways to be concise. Remove empty words, remove nominalizations, eliminate dead wood, avoid redundancy, shorten long expressions, or use passives. We'll dive into that. Remove empty words. Here's an example. The researcher conducted an interview with several students. We have an empty word there, conducted. What do you mean by conducted? Okay. And you turn the word interview into a noun. So in order to shorten it, you can simply say the researcher interviewed several students. Okay, so it's a lot shorter now. And there's you remove that empty word conducted. Okay. For example, another example, the patient was tall in height. Well, when we say tall, it's automatically in height. Of course, you're not tall in weight, so you say the patient was tall. By just saying the patient was tall, you already know that the patient was tall in height. You don't really need to include in height. Okay? Here's another one. Students who study in PNU need to write research papers. Okay? Well, you have the who there in the word need. You can simply shorten that by saying studying in PNU requires writing research papers. Okay, because it's of course you know that people who study in PNU are students. You don't need to say that those people who study in PNU are students. You already know that they are students. Okay, so instead of including students, you just say studying in PNU requires writing research papers. Okay, you have removed several empty words. Then you also need to remove nominalizations. Nominalizations are action words or descriptive words that are written as nouns. Normally, when we think of action words, we think of verbs. When we think of descriptive words, we think of adjectives. But when we write those action words or descriptive words as nouns, we call that nominalization. Okay, now, nominalization can complicate writing. I'm not saying nominalization is always wrong, but nominalizations can complicate writing. Okay, for example, the completion of the project happened in 2019. Okay, you can simply say the project was completed in 2019 instead of using the word completion. You know, when you have the word shun, when you have words with shun, that can produce opaque writing. The writing is not transparent. Okay. Now, in removing the nominalization, you were also able to remove the empty word happened. Okay. The project was completed in 2019 instead of saying the completion of the project happened in 2019. Okay. Here's another one. The intention of the school is the reduction of dropouts. You have two nominalizations there, intention and reduction. Those are action words that should be written as verbs, not nouns, in order to make your writing clearer. So instead of saying the intention of the school is the reduction of dropouts, you say the school intends to reduce dropouts. Isn't that a lot clearer? Isn't that a lot better to read? Okay? The decline in the use of Filipinos by students was the result of an increased proficiency in English. You have the word decline. You have the word proficiency. You have the word result. You can simply say, as students spoke English better, they used Filipino less. Okay? As students spoke English better, they used Filipino less. Okay? Instead of saying the decline in the use of Filipino by students was the result of an increased proficiency in English. When you write like that, you sound pretentious. Mapagpanggap. Nagpapanggap ka na ang galing-galing mong magsulat. You pretend to be such a smart writer. You know, the sin of some academics is they try to uh, they try to they send they try to send the idea that they are very smart by writing in a very opaque way. You know, in fact, in many universities in the United States, that is still promoted. You know, in the field of medicine, there are some universities where if you write in a very opaque
Gusto mo
way,
ba, sir?
you're considered very smart. But that's very pretentious and it's not really helping. Your intention is to help your readers, not to try to come across as being smart. Okay? So instead of writing in an opaque way, you write clearly and elegantly. Okay? As students spoke English better, they use Filipino less. That's a lot more elegant than the one that we had. Okay? Next is we need to eliminate dead wood. Okay? Deadwood refers to expressions used too often. Sobrang ginagamit na siya. And because it's too used, they make your writing opaque and inelegant. Okay? Because those expressions are used too often. And we have several examples of deadwood. Okay? For example, the supervisor wishes to deal with each and every issue. Each and every is an example of deadwood. It's irritating to listen to. Okay, so you can simply say the supervisor wishes to deal with each issue. It's more elegant. For all intents and purposes, a multi-purpose hall must be built. For all intents and purposes, that's quite irritating to read or listen to. Okay, you can simply say, practically, a multi-purpose hall must be built. So that's a lot more elegant. Here are other examples of deadwood. Hopes and dreams. It is a fact that, or aid and abet, or in order to, as a matter of fact, despite the fact that, first and foremost, here's one that's persistent. There is, there are. It's actually considered dead wood. And a really irritating kind of deadwood is this one. At this
Wala
point
naman
in
akong
time,
sounds.
can everybody hear me? Naririnig niyo po ba ako?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes
okay.
po.
Naririnig naman po. Sige.
Yes, sir.
Hindi kasi the problem with Zoom, sometimes you don't know if the problem is on the other end or at our end. Okay. Another kind of deadwood is in the event that, or prior to the start of, or due to the fact that those are deadwood, and when you write with deadwood, it clutters your writing. It clutters your writing. Okay. You need to replace deadwood. For example, despite the fact that can be replaced by although, due to the fact that can be replaced by because. At this point in time, that's very irritating. You can simply say now. Prior to the start of, you can simply say before. In the event that you simply say if or when. Now, in the case of creative writing, sometimes you can do that when you want to produce emphasis. Sometimes you use deadwood to produce emphasis in creative writing. But when you do that, you need to make sure that your writing is creative enough that people would be willing to tolerate your deadwood. But in academic writing, that is a no-no. Deadwood is a no-no. Okay. Next is avoid redundancy. Okay. Redundant words are words that can actually be expressed in just one word. Okay. His past record shows that he is an honest candidate. Well, pag sinabing record, when you say record, it's already past. So you simply say his record shows that he is an honest candidate. Here are other examples of redundancy. Advance warning, advance planning, brief summary, end result, fewer in number, consensus of opinion. When you say consensus, it's already consensus of opinion. Okay, current trend. When you say trend, it's already current. Added bonus. A bonus is something that's already added. Ask a question. Drop down. Careful scrutiny. Okay. Sometimes in creative writing, you include the word careful in the word scrutiny because you want to emphasize it. Like the word free gift. Okay. Sometimes in creative writing, instead of just saying gift, you say free gift because you want to emphasize the fact that it's free. But in academic writing, that's not acceptable. Okay. Another one is personal opinion. Okay. Another way to produce elegance in your writing is to shorten long expressions. You can remove there is, there are, you can remove it is, and you can remove unnecessary lead-ins. Okay? For example, you can remove there is, there are. There is a need for more research. You simply say more research is needed. There are over 500 students who need financial support. You simply say over 500 students need financial support. Isn't that a lot more elegant than having to say there are over or there is a, okay? There are many causes of war. Simply say the causes of war are many. There is a student manual in the library. So simply say a student manual is in the library. So it's a lot more elegant when you use that. Now you can also remove it is. Okay? It is certainly an inspiring sequence of events. You simply say the sequence of events is certainly inspiring. It is beneficial for elderly teachers to learn IT. Simply say elderly teachers will benefit from studying IT. Okay, you remove the it is. Okay. Another one is it is essential for studying in PNU that a student know how to make presentations. Simply say making presentations is essential for studying in PNU. It is beneficial, sinabi ko na to, it is beneficial for elderly teachers to learn IT. Elderly teachers will benefit from studying IT. And you should use passives. Passives are used when the doer is unknown or unnecessary. Okay? You can say somebody provided funds for the project, but because it's somebody, it's like an empty word. You simply say you shift it to the passive. Funds were provided for the project. So you shorten it, you turn it more elegant. An anonymous donor paid for the new equipment. You change it into the passive. The new equipment was paid for anonymously. Okay, so it's more elegant. Sometimes using the passive is produces elegant writing. Okay, then the laboratory assistant poured 10 milliliters of the liquid mixture into a beaker. Well, it's not really important that you mention that it was the laboratory assistant. Okay? You just say then 10 milliliters of the liquid mixture was poured into a beaker. Doesn't really matter who did it. So you use passives when the doer is unknown or not important. Okay? And yet, there are times when you have to use passives. Okay, there are times when you should not use passives. For example, do not use passives when the doer is important. Okay? When you write something and you make an assertion, you have to mention that it's you who did it. In this paper, I assert that maintaining the ethno-linguistic identity of indigenous people groups is necessary for cultural enrichment. Okay, so you don't use passives there. Okay, and yet you can still see that this piece of writing is still a bit opaque because you have the word cultural enrichment. You simply say, I assert that maintaining the ethno-linguistic identity of indigenous people groups enriches their culture. Okay, but the point we have here is when you are making an assertion, you should never use passives. You should mention that it's you who did it. Okay? So there's a difference between you making an assertion and a laboratory assistant pouring 10 milliliters of the mixture into a beaker. Because because pouring 10 milliliters of uh, the mixture into a beaker can be done by anyone. So it's not important. You have to use passives. But when you make an assertion in your paper, it's not your laboratory assistant who will do that. It, it's important that you assert. You show that you're the one doing the assertion. So you should not use passive. Okay? Being precise. Okay, we studied being concise. We're now studying being concise. Being precise. We studied being concise, which is expressing something with as few words as possible. Let's now talk about being precise. Okay? Being precise means using the more exact word to express an idea. Okay? When you use a more exact word, you are being precise. It's a lot clearer to your readers. Okay, the word for that is succinct. Okay, so one way to be precise is by replacing imprecise words. Here's an example. A Venn diagram is a thing used for comparing or contrasting two subjects. A thing, well, you can be more precise than using the word thing. You can say a Venn diagram is a graphic organizer used for comparing or contrasting two subjects. So it's a lot clearer now what a Venn diagram is. So this is even more crucial when your audience is not familiar with the idea, concept, or item that you are mentioning. Okay, you need to identify to them what's that? What is that? Okay, so you need to replace imprecise words with more precise words. Okay, here are examples of imprecise words: thing, object, place, event, make, do, go, say. Okay, if you email me at andyacademic at gmail.com, I can share with you other substitutes to imprecise words. Okay, and if you, by the way, if you want a copy of these presentations, you can email me at andyacademic at gmail.com. Okay, so you simply have to send me an email. Okay, now another way to be precise is to dump trite business phrases. Those business phrases are already worn out expressions. Okay, here are examples of trite phrases. Okay, okay. There's a problem with my what do you call this, with my presentation here because when I shifted this to Google Slides, there was a sudden change in structure. It should be, the first column should be trite, the second column should be improved. Okay, the word improve was moved to the left instead of being to the right. So here's an example of a trite business phrase: pursuant to your request. The improved version is as you requested. Please do not hesitate to could be replaced by please. Thank you in advance can simply be replaced by thank you. Enclosed, please find, you can simply write enclosed. We ask your person can simply say, can be replaced by we ask you. The phrases on the left, those are tired, worn out business phrases that we should not use anymore. Okay, because we are trying to write elegantly.